hello to all my friends and wandering souls on YouTube. I'm another one of those wandering souls too. For those who don't know me, I'm the ultra healthy video game nerd. I'm a retro-centric gamer. I play almost only 8-bit to 32-bit systems, and I do reviews of videos that kind of try to get out obscure, a lot of Japan-only games out to the world and let people know about great games, because I always enjoy those kind of videos. Today, this is a little bit different kind of video from what I usually do. This is a non-scripted video. This is not scripted. It's just a little sit-down, a little chit-chat with all you guys, and today I actually want to talk about why it is that I prefer retro games, older games, as opposed to newer ones. Because if you think about it, I mean, you know, the newer games, they are technologically superior. So it's kind of peculiar that I would really consistently go for games that are technologically inferior. But we're going to talk about that. I've been asking myself this question. You know, why? Why is it that I enjoy them so much? And I know that I'm not the only person out there. There's a lot of us. So, what is it? What is it about these games that hold our attention so much? It could just be nostalgia. We grew up in that time. We grew up in that era. And not only that, we've discovered, too late for most of us, that those kinds of games are not really going to be made anymore very much. There's, you know, some people out there, a lot of independent groups who are really trying to hold it down, trying to make games that bring up the feeling, you know, of the older games. And I love them, and I really try to buy them as much as possible, and I appreciate it. I love you guys. But, you know, the big companies are done, especially in Japan. Here it's the worst. So what is it? I'm going to start from the conclusion kind of here and just say that abstraction is what it's all about. I don't really want my video games or any kind of art to fill in all the blanks for me. I prefer it and I appreciate it when something gets left to the imagination. That's why I enjoy art as any form, really, especially video games. I like it that I get to kind of create the rest of the world. They give me something, and then I expand on it inside myself, inside my mind, or whatever it is. You know, that's why I prefer the older graphics that are not perfect, crystal clear, you know, with all the details filled in. I don't really enjoy that kind of thing. I don't really want them to give the experience to me wholesale. So basically, I just prefer art that leaves something to the imagination. And, you know, my video games, that's really what it's all about. I'm thinking of, you know, old Nintendo games like Rygar or Castlevania 2, where it's like they depict this kind of natural outside world, but it's very rough around the edges. So it's like I have the idea, I know that I'm in some kind of like, you know, field or plains or mountain range or something, but it's not like they paint the picture for me, you know, 100%. So I get to imagine that I'm out somewhere in the world. I remember very clearly, like sometimes when I would go hiking out in these natural areas in Northern California, it was very similar to the feeling that I would get when I'd see the graphics from a game like Rygar or Treasure on the Genesis. So that's what I love. I love it that everything is not crystal clear, that the graphics are not too detailed. Another game that reminds me of that is Astyanax on the NES. Not the greatest game by any means. Jaleco's games are hit or miss, a lot of misses. But it's one of my favorite games graphically, just because of the style. The imagination is more important than the picture quality, right? So it's dependent on, you know, what the person sees in their mind. It's not dependent so much on what comes out on the paper, I think, to me. I don't really like games that imitate reality. I play video games to, I guess you could say, get away from reality. In a way, I like them because they're not realistic. You know, so I just can't understand why it is that companies want to make their games and graphics in particular so lifelike. You know, it doesn't inspire me. games where they, draw the faces crystal clear, spend all this time, getting the emotions and the facial expressions and the 5 o'clock shadow, as clear as possible. I just don't understand what that benefits the experience. Same goes for the music. You can have the Nintendo is 4 layers for the most part, except for a few games that, stuck sound chips in their cartridges. But otherwise, those songs on the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo, will stay with me, forever. And you can have a huge, super quality orchestrated soundtrack on the modern game systems, but it's not necessarily going to inspire me. Because composition is totally about imagination. It has nothing to do with the quality of the sounds themselves. And I really don't like the way that a lot of modern games want to imitate a movie, especially with the soundtrack. I have no interest in that whatsoever. Movies can be movies, let them be, but I want video games to be video games. They're supposed to have, experimental music. Or like, kind of jazz-inspired stuff is what I tend to like the most. So that gets me to another point, actually, about movies. Oh, hi! I was thinking this person might come and join us. Hey, come on. Yeah, meowing. Come on, okay. Where was I? About Hollywood movies, about big budget Hollywood modern movies. The one thing that I really don't like about them a lot is they force the emotion on with the music. I feel like it's like this scene, okay, now you're really intense and it's gets your blood pumped up. And this scene, now it's tender, and now you're supposed to be having a really romantic experience. I don't like it when they force the emotion on me. Let me experience the goddamn art. Just let it be what it is. You can't control the user's experience with your creation. That goes for any form of artwork, a book, a movie, a video game, a song. You know what I'm saying? So I really don't care for that. And it's a big problem with modern video games too, is that they kind of want to try to, force the commander's face in the screen and tell me, okay, right now it's really intense. You know what I'm saying? I don't care for that. One big problem I have with app games, and online play-focused games is that there's no clear ending. They just kind of go on forever. There's these games, they make them and then they put them out for play, and then they're constantly tweaking, and upgrading and adding other stuff to it. I understand there is, something to be said for that type of game. It's just a different, it's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a personal preference, it's a stylistic preference. But I want nothing to do with it, myself personally. I want a game to have a clear ending. I want to know what I'm working towards. With an old Nintendo game, if you're good, you can play the game for 45 minutes or an hour, and you're basically done with it if you beat it. If not, it's okay, you can just turn it off and you can go on with your life. I don't really like this idea of, put out a game and then, oh, it's not really finished yet, I still gotta change this and that and the other. Just make something and let it be and move on to the next. That's what I prefer. So that's why I play retro games, you know what I'm saying? And, I play PlayStation and Saturn, so some of these things, take a long time. But still, there's a clear ending. I know where they're going. I just mentioned app games and online games. I have a big problem with download-only games. I do. It's even when there are games that look great. If they're download-only, basically I don't play them. I did buy a few points for the Xbox Live Arcade, or whatever it's called, so that I could get Strania, which was made by the company Grev, because they try to make modern 2D shooters. I don't particularly like all of them, but I really wanted to try it, so I did that. But think about this. For a lot of us, playing video games, it's a part of our youth. It's a part of our growing up, and it's a memory that we hold with us. When you play download-only games, that thing is just going to disappear at some point. I mean, some people maybe, you know, are really on the ball and they're going to hold on to their data and they're going to keep their system with it and this and that. But, you know, in particular, games that are made for, you know, smartphone devices or this kind of stuff, that there's not going to be any object left over to hold on to cherish the memory. You know, and that's part of the reason that these old 8-bit video games are so expensive now, is that there is a nostalgia attached to them. And you guys, you young people right now, who are, you know, mostly playing downloadable games, you're going to be 30 years old or whatever, and, you know, it's going to be gone. There's going to be nothing left of it. Is that okay with you? I mean, it's fine. You know, some people prefer that way. It's like, hey, enjoy what's going on right now and just totally move on. But, you know, that experience is just going to be out there. I mean, what if we did that with everything? What if there were no, you know, physical copies of books or movies left over? You know, it's totally weird. So that's a big problem I have with modern games. That's why I play exclusively almost retro games, right? So I think I've definitely talked enough about why I prefer these old games so much and why I'm going to keep doing more videos about them. It's great. You know, what it comes down to is I don't like it to be too detailed. I don't want everything to be given to me perfectly on a platter. I like a subtle game experience, Hightail. I like a game experience that it affects something in me subtly that you can't really quantify, you know. So I'm going to stick with these old games, and all you guys out there who are still want to play the most modern stuff, hey, I want to try VR like everybody else, but please, you know, give the Nintendo a chance, give the Sega Genesis a chance. There's something to be said for these things, and there's a good reason why they're so expensive now. So as always, thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate it. That's all for me, Ultra Healthy Video Game Nerd. I'm out of here. If you enjoyed this video, of course, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you next time.